Previously, we had you look at this as a discussion and look for patterns with this. So notice we're raising a binomial to a power. Binomial means that there's two terms. So we've got one term, two terms, one term, two terms, and you're raising it to some kind of power. Okay, so some of the patterns that you may have noticed. So if we look here, we've got these powers. So each of these powers matches the first power that we have. So this would have an unsaid x to the 0. So notice that that would still match and that this one is an unsaid first power. And notice that same pattern applies over here, right? This power that it's being raised to is the power of the first term. Again, this would be an x to the 0, so then that matches, and then this is an unsaid 1. Okay. So then if we look further as to what's happening, if we look here at this first one, this is x to the 0, then on the second one we would have an x, and then this would really be an x to the 0, or x and no x. We have an x squared, an x and no x, an x cubed, an x squared, an x and no x, an x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, x and no x. Right? So we're starting with the power that this is raised to, and then we're going down, 2, 1, none, 3, 2, 1, none, 4, 3, 2, 1, none. Okay? And if we look over here, that same pattern applies, right? Nothing, 1, nothing, 2, 1, nothing, no x value, 3, 2, 1, none, 4, 3, 2, 1, none, right? So our pattern for our first term here, we take that and we are going to start at the power it's raised to and go up from there. To go down from there. Okay. Then, this pattern you may or may not have noticed. If we look at over here on this one, notice this one we had an x and a y. So on this one over here, if we look at what happened to our y values, I had no y. Here I had a y and no y here. Here I had a no y, a y to the first and a y to the second. No y, y to the first, y to the second, y to the third. No y, y to the first, y to the second, y to the third, y to the fourth. So on this side, we have where it starts this second value, it starts at 0, and then it goes up from there. So y to the nothing, y to the nothing, y to the first, y to the nothing, y to the first, y to the second. So this second pattern that we have is that this starts with the power of 0 and goes up from there. Okay. Now, if we look back over here, these were all 1s. This pattern still holds. What happens is that if we have 1 to any value, it just doesn't change anything. So if we look here, this could be 1 to the 0. This would be 1 to the 0, 1 to the first, 1 to the 0, 1 to the first, 1 to the second. Right? But all of those just go to 1, so it doesn't impact anything. So the pattern still holds as you're taking this thing and raising it to 0 first and then going up from there. Okay? So those are our patterns. So for our first term, the first term in the binomial, we start at whatever power the binomial is being raised to, and then we go down from there, right? 4, 3, 2, 1, none. And then with our second term, we start at the 0 power, and we go up from there.